Director of Studies, Mr. Padmanathan, Heads of Department, dear teachers, parents, and ladies and gentlemen of AIS. Welcome to this meeting where we discuss the subject choices and options available to our students after they complete the IGCSE exam. It was a little over 2 years ago that we organized our last physical subject choices meeting the day before Sri Lanka went into lockdown due to COVID-19. So here we are today having our meeting still not physically but virtually due to the constraints that we still encounter. Dear children, you have come to a decisive stage in your life that the decisions you take now will have a significant impact and bearing on your future. And that is why it is very important that you choose the subjects you hope to follow in the advanced level classes very carefully, and that you make informed decisions having considered all relevant factors. Now, the first question that many of you or some of you may have is, why do A levels in the first place? Since there are many options available outside today which permit students to progress even into university education through various options such as foundation programs, diplomas, and the likes. The simple answer to that is that an A level qualification or having an A level qualification will be extremely useful at a later stage in your life, and having a proper A level qualification will certainly open doors and vistas for you in many areas later on. While a foundation or a diploma program may be an option for some students, certainly A level is not an option for everybody, but to the majority of the students that we would usually encounter in school, it is certainly advisable for them to pursue A levels rather than dropping out of school at this stage. Now, apart from the benefit or the use that an A level certificate will carry for the rest of your life, there are also other aspects which you have to consider. I think all parents will confirm the fact that the last few years of a student's life in school are the most enjoyable, the happiest, and certainly the most memorable for the rest of your life. Personally, I can vouch for the fact that the friends that I have made in my A level class while I was a student in school are still my very best friends and the closest friends that I have to date. And I'm sure many of your parents will also confirm that fact. The friendships that you develop in school, particularly in the final years of your life when you have reached a stage of maturity, having crossed over from a puberty stage, that mature friendship that you develop with others really carry with you for the rest of your life. And of course, at a school like AIS, we try to provide our students with many opportunities for them to grow in their personality, confidence, and overall profile. Therefore, we encourage our children to get involved in extracurricular activities, at least one, perhaps more, simply for the reason that it helps in shaping your personality by developing your ability to communicate, collaborate, and work in community. So that's another good reason why remaining in a school environment where a kid or a student is subject to the rigor of a planned school day, where a student falls in line with the standards that are expected of them and develops a sense of routine and discipline in their daily life, becomes very important even as they pass that threshold from 16 to 18 years of age. So, therefore, let me start by saying that I think that there is really good reason why students should do A levels if they are still able to within a school setting. Having said that, the next critical issue that students and parents have to face is deciding on what subjects to pursue at A levels. Now, here at AIS, we have developed a program of study which enables many of you to pick the subject combinations and the choices that you would like to do. I must concede that we are not able to provide for the choices of each and everybody. That is simply not possible. However, we make it our endeavor to provide opportunities to study as many different combinations as possible. And the document that has been shared with you will give you a grid which will explain how you should pick one subject from each group or basket, resulting in an overall combination of at least four to start the A level course. Thereafter, having the option of perhaps even dropping one subject after you have completed your advanced subsidiary level after 1 year. Now, in picking subjects, the general rule of thumb that I would advocate for any student anywhere is to look at certain aspects of themselves. Be sure that you pick subjects that you will like to do and enjoy doing. Children at IGCSE level, we encourage you to do a range of subjects which will include at least one science subject, which will include at least one humanities subject, and so on. Now, why we do that is because at the very basic level, it is important for you to show that you are a student who is well rounded with knowledge from all areas of life. But when it comes to A levels, you have a choice that you can exercise. And in choosing those subjects, please pick a subject that you like doing and that you will enjoy doing at least for the next 2 years. Of course, you also need to then ask yourself the question whether you really have an aptitude to do that particular subject. That is basically your ability to handle or tackle the content of that subject. Once again, the document that has been shared with you will give a synopsis of all the subjects. Each individual subject synopsis will be laid out to you. Read through it, have a look at it, Google search even if you require to do so, and gather as much information as possible which will give you insight to the kind of content that will be covered in the next 2 years, so that you will be able to make an honest assessment as to whether it is going to be an area which is within your capability. Chances are that if you like the subject, if you have a genuine interest and that you enjoy doing that subject, and you also have the ability or the aptitude to do it, then the chances are that you will actually do well at advanced level. Personally, I am aware of many students who are generally very average or even sometimes below average or very mediocre at IGCSE level, but they pick a combination of subject which really appeal to them, and they have an aptitude for it, and they just take off after the IGCSEs and end up doing extremely well at advanced level. So there is a lot of scope for you to excel at advanced level if you make the right choice or make the right selection within the choice of subjects that have been offered to you. So please make sure you have a genuine interest in the subject and an aptitude when picking the subjects. Now, another thing in that rule of thumb that we also advocate is that when picking the 4 subjects, at least 2 of those subjects should sit well together. Should sit well together. So there are well-known combinations such as physics and maths sitting well together, chemistry and biology going well together, business studies and accounting going well together. So at least 2 of the 4 subjects that you pick have to have some connection with each other and should be sitting pretty together, which will give you room for you to progress even to undergraduate education. Then the third subject should be something which actually complements or supports the other 2 subjects. So if you already have physics and chemistry, maths will support both those subjects. If you have already picked business studies and accounting, then economics will support both those subjects. So like that, make sure that you have 2 subjects which sit well together and a third subject which actually supports and complements the other 2 subjects. Now the 4th subject can be something which is completely unconnected and unrelated, which will help to project yourself as a person who has wide and varied interests. So in a typical combination of physics, chemistry and math, you can choose to do economics, which is really not part of that same regime but a different area of interest, to show that you have also captured some other areas of interest. You could combine English literature with a range of other subjects which are not connected with English literature in any way, but which will help to build in a subject which will also have analytical, which will help you to develop your analytical skills in a different way. A subject like maths, for instance, as a 4th subject will complement everything, any other subject that you may choose to do. So, in a nutshell, at least 2 subjects should go well together, which you will continue even later on after leaving school at an undergraduate or professional study level. A third subject which will actually support and complement the 2 subjects that you have picked in the first instance, and a 4th subject which can really project yourself, which will help to project yourself as a well-rounded person, having wide and varied interests and having a combination which is very holistic and very complete. Of course, as I have mentioned before, we do permit students to even drop one subject after the AS level, and bear in mind that some subjects, even if you have done half the qualification at AS level, it will be very useful at a later point in time. So those are some of the things that become relevant when picking subjects. The final thing that you need to bear in mind is, remember children, that the A levels is perhaps only the beginning of your next phase of life. This is not the end. So therefore, the subjects that you choose doing at A levels should lead you to some place after school. Whether it be professional qualifications or whether it be undergraduate, pick a combination of subjects which will take you to what you have planned or what you have as an ambition in life. So for instance, if you are thinking of doing medicine, it is very important that you take up chemistry, maths and physics as core subjects at advanced level. If any of you have an interest in becoming a pilot, then undoubtedly physics and maths should be in the combination of subjects that you choose. Certain areas of engineering will require you to do not just maths but also further maths, which will help you in later on. So likewise, if you do have some inclination of what you might do at undergraduate level or post-secondary education as we call it, then please make sure that the combination of subjects that you do for advanced level will be adequate for you to progress to that next phase in your learning journey. Of course, I must also tell you that it is not uncommon for students still not to have an ambition or still not to have even a clue as to what they want to do at tertiary education level. And let me tell you, there is no harm in that. You may still be undecided as to what you would want to do in later life. If you happen to fall into that category of still being undecided, then it is very important that you pick a combination of subjects which will give you the flexibility or the dexterity for you to take on a wide range of options. So if you are undecided, then you are better off doing a combination of subjects which will leave room for you to progress to different areas in later life, rather than doing a combination of subjects which will give you very narrow scope. So for instance, subjects, you're doing math will help you to take on a range of subject combinations at undergraduate level. If you do a subject like English literature, it does open up avenues for more variety of options and choices at undergraduate level. So for those of you who are still not decided, you need to be a little bit more careful in picking a subject, picking your subjects in a manner that will leave room for you to maneuver and navigate your learning journey after leaving school. And of course, my dear parents, you need to have a family conversation in deciding or in programming your way forward between now. Understand that within the next 2.5 years, your children will have to look at where they would be wanting to study, what they would want to study. And it's important that you start planning your financials from now on, even though it is very difficult to plan anything financially in our country the way it is. But you need to give sufficient thought and consideration so that your children are also aware of what aspirations you will be able to meet for them. And please be honest and realistic in how you want to get about doing that part of planning for the future. So, in conclusion, this is just one of those choices that you have to make in life, bearing in mind that all choices have consequences. And the decisions that you take with regard to your next phase of education will pretty much set you up to what you will possibly end up doing for the rest of your life. And that is why we are very keen to see you making those decisions intelligently, in an informed manner, having considered the range of factors which you should be doing, and not to allow it to be an emotional decision or a decision that is taken lightly or in haste. And therefore, I sincerely hope that you will all give due thought, ponder over it, discuss it in family as a dinner time conversation, and come up with your own choices which will actually make you happy and will give you a fulfilling A level course at AIS where you will enjoy your learning and actually grow as ladies and gentlemen in your intellect, personality, and overall formation, ready to take on the world after you leave school. Thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you very much for joining this meeting, and I wish you all the very best, even as you engage in deciding what you should be doing with yourselves in the next phase of your life. Thank you, take care, stay safe, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Pereira. Here we have the subject combination available for this academic year. Students have to select one subject from each section, and it is compulsory that 4 subjects are selected. Now, in terms of the subjects offered, it is not a decision that was taken lightly, but a decision that was made taking into consideration student performances, as well as the ability of the grade as a whole. And so we ask you to please attempt to select subjects from each section. And if there is a clash or should you have an issue with it, please feel free to take it up with our Director of Studies, Mr. Padmanathan. Next, I will be going through each subject in detail in terms of the course overview, the subject requirements, and the expectations of the teachers in terms of what it is to handle a particular subject at the exam. First, we have accounting. So now, as you can see on the slide, there are many possible career options for students who choose to do accounting. And this is a versatile subject that is applicable to multiple streams and careers, as you can see on the slide. We also at AIS have much to say about the students who have done accounts in the past. They have won awards and they have received the highest accolades possible. And so accounting is definitely a good option for a student. There are certain requirements as well. It is not essential that you have an O-level for IGCSEs or IGCSE in accounting, but it is not essential. It is not essential, but it is an added bonus. Next, we have biology. So it is important that we understand why a student should pick biology and what the subject entails. And as you can see, it is important in the understanding of the variety of forms of life and also helps us to understand the interactions between humans and the world. Something we must mention is that it is a core subject and some universities require biology even for majors like international relations. Next, we have the course outline, and you can see that Unit 1 and Unit 2 is done at the AS level, and Unit 4 and 5 are done at A2 level. And if you look at the course outline, you'll see that it is quite diverse in terms of the different topics that it covers. Here are also a few career options available to those who do engage with biology for their advanced level examinations. And as you can see, this is also extremely diverse, which means that doing biology doesn't really restrict you to conventional career options. Next, we have business, and here you see the topics that make up the course. So top unit 1 and unit 2 are most of the time done over the AS level period, and unit 3 and 4 done for the A2 level examination. It is important to study business because it gives a foundational knowledge and a baseline in terms of understanding what this field is like, which can also lend to a better understanding of a variety of other fields as well. And also, in a world where entrepreneurs are fast growing, business is a very good option for students to select. Here we have some student comments from past students, and as you can see, these students are grateful to their teachers who have taught them because they understand the value of this subject. Next, we have chemistry, and here as well you see that the subject is quite diverse in terms of the topic areas that it covers. And it's also essential to understand why a student would pick chemistry. We must understand that it will complement some of the other subjects that we offer here at AIS, and also in terms of enhancing the student's skill set in terms of working as a team, communicating, assembling data, and investigations. It is important to understand as well that chemistry is one of the top tier subjects at many degree courses at universities in the UK, the US, and Australia. And the teachers have provided you with a hierarchy of subjects, and you can see that chemistry is definitely there on top. Next, we have economics. It is important to study economics in order to have a more holistic view of the world. And as you can see, different skills are fostered by teachers in the students who choose to study economics. Analytical and evaluation skills and understanding the real world, as well as a key component in carrying out research, which is essential to students when they start their university journey. This is also a complementary subject as it helps all of the different, helps a variety of different subject combinations, and a lot of universities value a rounded education for at the advanced level, and economics definitely is a subject that enhances that. As you can see here, there are many career options in a variety of fields, and there are of course requirements. It is necessary to have at least a 5 if you have done IGCSE economics, at least a 6 for math if you did not take economics for IGCSE. So definitely something to consider even if a student has not taken economics for at the IGCSE rather. Next up, we have English literature. Now, of course, the assumption is that English literature is only about reading texts, but it really isn't. It is a subject that involves a lot of critical thinking, a lot of independent thought, reflection, and judgment. In terms of marking, and great issue that many students ask us is whether it is subjective. But as you can see, there are set assessment objectives to be followed, which allow for more transparency in terms of marking. And this subject, even if you get a B, it is a subject that really helps in the diversification of a student's subject choices, and therefore is really looked at positively by universities. Here we've just got a number of individuals who have studied literature for their A levels, and as you can see, they are now employed in quite gainfully in a variety of fields, and that have very little to do with directly literature. But obviously, you can see how literature has enhanced their knowledge. Next, we have geography, and here you have in the diagram a variety of skills that are taught to the student as the student understands man's interaction with the environment. Of course, we have to also answer the question, why choose geography? Because it is a subject that, yes, fosters discussion, research, and does help your critical thinking skills, and how it in terms of complement and how it complements other subjects as well. And geography is just a great subject to add to your combination in terms of making it more holistic and rounded. Here there are also certain requirements, but here what we have is just the outline of the course, just to give you a general idea of what the paper is like. And at AS level, you have paper 1 and paper 2, and at A2 level, you have paper 3 and 4. Next, we have information technology. It is presented in a modular format with 2 units for AS and 2 units for A2, following many of the other subjects. And here you have how it is assessed. There is both a written and a practical component. Prerequisites, of course, is largely the keenness to learn. Yes, IGCSE, ICT would be beneficial, but it is not a requirement. And here we have a few of the topics that are studied. And again, as you can see, the subject is quite diverse in terms of the areas that it addresses. And also, if you look at the practical component at the bottom, the student does kind of amass a lot of practical knowledge in terms of creating web pages and database solutions, etc. Here we have some feedback from former students who have excelled in this subject and who are now currently in university. And as you can see, they are really grateful to have studied information technology. Next, we have law. Now, the course overview is presented here. 2 papers are done, 2 are compulsory examinations. Of course, this is a writing intensive subject, and so therefore it is necessary that a student get at least a 6 for IGCSE English. It is important also to remember that law is not a soft subject, and it is a subject that definitely will enhance a student's university prospects. Here we have a range of reasons why a student should study law, because it enhances these particular skills which are necessary, as we all know, for the workforce. Even if the student chooses not to become a lawyer, they are highly transferable to multiple industries and sectors. Here as well, we have some student testimonials from past pupils, and we can see that this subject has broadened their worldview because it is interesting, satisfying, and also enhances the students' practical and organizational skills as well. Next, we have math and further math. We have requirements for students to select these subjects. For math, there is a minimum mark of 40% at IGCSE required, and for further math, there is a minimum mark of 70%. Now, it must be mentioned here that if a student selects further math at AS level, this subject cannot be dropped at the end of AS level, but it must be continued to A2 level as well, or A level as well. Here we have a table displaying the compulsory units as well as the optional units. This is what is offered for the AS examination for both math and further math. And this is what is available in terms of compulsory and optional units for the A2 examination, again, for mathematics and further mathematics. Next, we have physics. Now, it must be mentioned here as well that physics is required for most university engineering courses. It is also required to practice medicine in Sri Lanka. So this is something that must be taken into consideration if the student has hopes or ambitions of becoming a doctor and practicing in Sri Lanka. Here are the skills that are developed: analytical skills, analyzing data, and applying these laws to real-world problems. Many career prospects here as well for those who have a background in physics. And as you can see, again, they are quite diverse in terms of the fields that these careers are in. There is a requirement that it is necessary to score 7 or above at IGCSE, O-level physics and mathematics. Next, we have psychology. And of course, it is important to bust the myth that psychology is not mind reading, dealing with psychos or fortune telling, but rather it is the scientific study of human and animal mental processes and behavior. Psychology here understands behavior, and that is what students will be doing. They'll be looking at maladaptive behavior and investigating this behavioral types. And of course, research, it is a very research intensive subject. So again, you are setting a foundation for a good research practice and understanding research methodologies, which will help the student at university level as well. It is necessary to have a score of 6 or above for English at the IGCSE because it is a writing intensive subject. And here you have the syllabus overview with the multiple topics covered. Now, before we proceed any further, these are the subjects that are offered at AS level. And next up, we have Ms. Romesh, our guidance counselor, who will talk you through university perspectives and things that have to be taken into consideration before kind of selecting these subjects, and things that need to be taken into consideration when applying for universities and so on.
I think many of you know me as your history teacher or class teacher, so it's lovely to have you back here selecting your A-level subjects. Mr. Pereira spoke to you about the first point on this slide, which is that universities look for specific subjects depending on the course you're taking. There is no way for any one of us to know every university in every country and what specific subjects they offer. So if you are certain of what you want to do, then you need to research and make sure that you've covered the subjects that they require. Because it can be very unique. I'll give you an example. Recently, a university from Canada spoke to me, and for their business studies program, they want an A-level in math, which is kind of unusual because that's not usually necessary to study business. The rest of this slide is self-explanatory, so I won't really go through it with you. In terms of the last point, watch out that you don't take subjects that overlap. We don't have really, I think, any subjects that will overlap in that sense, except if you look at this comment in the middle from the London School of Economics, which says that it's best to avoid a combination of business studies and economics. Again, here, Mr. Pereira was very, very articulate in how he covered how you select your subjects, because it can be really hard. Most students are not very comfortable with committing themselves to one particular choice of studies. So as Mr. Pereira pointed out, the only thing I want to say here really is about the transferable skill. So when you look at that fourth subject, remember he said the fourth subject that you can actually show your that you are different and unique and the different skills that you have. When you're doing that, look at this point over here where we talk about transferable skills, and see what skills you need. Because, for example, a student studying IT may think, wow, why would I do English literature? But that can help you, because very often we find that people who are doing IT, they don't know how to transfer this wonderful product they've made into something that the customer understands. And having studied English literature or any other subject that helps you to think analytically and critically can help you to transfer that program into something that the general public will understand, and then you'll have a winning product. So now we come to the actual application process. I've just set out here, this isn't something I've done before, but I thought it would be useful for parents, the different ways in which you apply. So to UK, there is an app called UCAS. And for USA, it's mostly the Common App. If you are using one of these apps, students, please just message me and I'll send you a document which will give you exactly what you need to do in order to apply. Actually, I will actually put this on Teams, and that will help you. I'll put everything on Teams. If you are applying to Canada, mostly students apply directly to Canada. In Ontario, there's one app. This OUSC is an app that's used in the state of Ontario. So if you are applying there, you may have to use this app. In Australia, too, most students apply directly. Now we come to the question of agents. So when it comes to Canada and Australia, very often students use agents. There are a couple of agents that we are familiar with in school, and if you are interested, we can tell you who they are. But the most important thing I need to point out to you is that agents do not charge you any money. The agents are paid by the university. The only time that money comes into play is when you are applying for the visa. And then the agent will charge you actual costs for visa application. They may even charge you a service fee. Actually, this is one of the main reasons why people do use agents. Because while they may apply directly, when it comes to the visa, there's an expertise that's required. Also, universities in Australia in particular prefer that you go through an agent. They also give all the scholarships to the agent so that the agent, along with the university, will decide on scholarships. So, for example, they will tell the agent if a person applying has 4 stars, then they get this much of a scholarship. So that's another reason to use an agent. Some other things. So having a conversation about the finances, because we very often sadly see students who come in with great enthusiasm about what they want to do, only to find out that they are not actually able to finance that particular course of studies. When I point this out to students and we discuss how much it's probably going to cost, then they say, oh, miss, it's okay, I'll get a scholarship. So getting scholarships is quite difficult. To get a full scholarship is quite hard. So that can be a little bit of pressure on a student. Also, universities often give you sort of a small scholarship just to, like a teaser, to tempt you. And kids come and say, oh, miss, I got the scholarship. But when you really look at that scholarship along with the actual cost of the fees, it barely makes a dent in the fees. Then checking deadlines and starting early. Please, please, kids, I always say this, and it never happens, except for the few students. And actually, those few students who do it during the holidays, who start during the holidays, are the ones who end up with the best universities and the best scholarships, because they are being more thoughtful about this whole process. So the things that you need to do during your summer holidays, it's hard, guys, because you have finished your exams and you think, wow, this is my time to chill. And then you forget that, you have to at some point stop chilling and get back to work again before school starts. So the things you need to be doing. So firstly, the tests. So you have the SATs. If you are applying to USA or to an American-based university, then you want to do your SATs. You can check whether the university requires it, but many of them do. So the SATs, there is an exam in August. I think it's something like August 23rd. So that's the one you want to target. You want to study for your SATs during the summer holidays and sit for it in August, just before school starts. IELTS and TOEFL are English language tests. Now, these tests are actually not required by most universities for our students because we study in English. However, when you apply for a visa, they do require, most often, these tests. So you may want to do those too during the holidays. Subject-specific SATs are something that most people do not know about. So you can have SATs in a particular subject, let's say math or chemistry or physics. And it's not compulsory to do these at all. However, when you do these tests, it gives the American University an understanding, a clearer understanding of where you are in the subject. Because while they do accept A-levels, they are not familiar with the content of A-levels, and they can't sort of benchmark you against their own students. Then for medical students, there are specific tests that you must take, and these tests are usually offered only once a year. So you have to be very mindful. When these tests come up, I do send out an email to the students on their school email address. So this is another very important thing. I send a lot of things on the school email address, and very often students tell me, "Oh, Miss, we don't check that very often." "Oh, Miss, I don't even know how to go in there." Well, you can. I mean, I get the messages on my phone. You can get added to your inboxes on your phone so that it will show that that email as well. Then you have to write your essays for your university applications, and this too, if you do during the summer holidays, will be a great relief for you when you start school. So the essays for USA, besides the Common App essay, where the prompts are already there and I can give them to you. You don't need to have done anything. I can tell you what they are. It's also on that document, which I said I will post on Teams. But many universities in America have multiple essays. So you may find that you have to do a lot more. So just try and start that application, get into the Common App, establish yourself so that you can see what the other essays are. You also have teacher recommendations that you may need, so get that started early with your teachers. Do not wait till the last minute and expect your teachers to drop everything and write you a recommendation. Do your research on the universities. See what you need to do, and then, of course, as we said, look at your finances. So some students may want to take a gap year. That's not a bad idea because our students really are fairly young to enter universities. And in many universities overseas, the students are quite mature because they have to pay for their own degrees, so they tend to take time off and study and and work before they join university. But if you take a gap year, you need to make sure that you're doing something that's constructive during that gap year. You may be doing some other course, you may do an internship, whatever it is. The university, when you do eventually apply, does not want to see that you just sat about doing nothing for 1 year. That won't look good on your application. Then we have extracurriculars, sports, etc. So I very often find that students tell me when I'm looking at their CV for their recommendation letter, they say, "Oh, Miss, I used to do this, but then I stopped when it came to my A-levels because my parents said I have to get serious now." I understand that perspective, but it is imperative that they do continue those extracurriculars, especially in grade 11 and 12, from lower 6 and upper 6, because that's the time when they actually can get positions in those particular extracurriculars, etc. So you need that so that you can show the universities that your child is well-rounded and that they have a very robust academic and extracurricular portfolio. Internships during the holidays, you want them to know that you're not being idle, that you're doing something valuable. So try and contact a few companies and see if you can just shadow somebody there to get a feel for what it is like in the work life. If you need a letter from school, please contact me or Mr. Pereira's personal assistant, and we will get you a letter. Community service too shows that you are a good sort of global concerned citizen. So you need that on your CV as well. So do get involved in some community service activities. So thank you. That's it from me. Good luck, and please know that I'm there and you can always reach out to me. I'm on the ground floor near the music room on that side. You can see the sign.
Thank you, Ms. Romesh, for that. Please feel free to contact the Director of Studies, Mr. Padmanathan, should you have any questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good night.